Welcome to Wyckoff Power Charting. We have a super special episode today. We are going to talk about the fall teaching cycle. The thing for the last 30 some years that's so exciting in the fall is not the start of football season or baseball playoffs or other things. It's really the beginning of the Wyckoff educational cycle, and this has been going on for a very long time, and I'm happy to say that it continues, it endures. And we have a very special guest with us today, Roman Bogomazov, who is my dear friend and my fellow teacher, and we have been in the classroom many times together, and I'm really happy to have him here. Roman, welcome.
Well, Bruce, thank you for such an introduction. Wow, I don't know if we can compete with football, but we definitely are going to catch attention of our Wyckoff followers for sure. Yeah, starting the new semester.
Well, Richard D. Wyckoff said this is the greatest game.
It is.
It is the greatest game. Yeah. So, and they keep score every day.
That's so true.
Well, Roman, I'm very excited because you are on the verge of starting your fall teaching cycle, which I think is a fabulous continuation and contribution to the whole Wyckoff Method education process. I get no more questions than the questions that I get from fellow Wyckoff Nation members who want to talk about the fall class cycle. And so that is what I'd like for us to do today, in addition to us talking about markets. And so that's my goal for today. And I'm sure that you have some thoughts too about that.
Well, let's just do it. Yeah,
let's get to it. One announcement is that very special events coming up on September 18th, and it is the TSAA-SF Virtual Fall Conference. For the second year in a row, the conference is going to be virtual, and it is going to be included with TSAA-SF membership. And membership is not expensive. It's a super value. You get content throughout the whole year. And not only do you get webinar content, but there's great content on the website and other things that we're doing. We also have a great webinar coming up on September 2nd. And so lots of good things planned for the remainder of the year and into next year. So go to tsaasf.org, check it out, become a member, attend the conference. If you're a member, you can also watch the webinar recorded. So it's available to you on an on-demand basis later on if you can't spend the entire day in front of your computer. So, and also I'd like to also make the point that Alessio Rutiliano, who is the very great crypto analyst that works with Roman at Wyckoff Analytics, is going to be one of our featured speakers. So Roman, I think that's very cool that we're going to have Alessio.
Well, I'm just excited that TSAA-SF is extremely active right now under Bruce's guidance as a chairman. And, the team is fantastic. Creating all of these events, creating such immense value. And I believe, Bruce, it's just only $75 per year membership.
That's correct. And also
unbelievable value.
As a super additional bonus is that everybody who's in the TSAA-SF is also by membership, a member of IFTA, the International Federation of Technical Analysts, which is all the technical societies throughout the world. Lots of great content comes from IFTA, journals, webinars, and so on every year, including a super fall conference is coming in October, and yours truly is going to be one of the speakers. So anyway, great event. And so we're going to pause right now and make a screen change here, and then we will be right back and continue on. Roman's fall teaching cycle begins actually starting next week. And I really wanted to talk a little bit with Roman here about the course offerings that he has, because I get so many questions, and it's much better to have Roman answering these questions and talking about the great courses that he teaches. And I'd like to say this, that I've been teaching Wyckoff for, gosh, 30 years in the classroom, many of them with Hank and Roman. And Roman and I have been collaborating in the classroom for 25 years, which is remarkable. And I'm amazed that you look so young, Roman.
I just don't change the picture. That's my secret.
Oh, okay. I'm going to remember that.
Yes.
The thing that is amazing here is that it was very expensive to take a graduate level accredited college course in market analysis, and I taught many of the classes at the graduate level. Here, you are teaching with the same high level of excellence that we had in the classroom. I think you've elevated that excellence because of your incredible teaching style and your commitment to the educational process in Wyckoff. And so could you just take a minute and tell us a little bit about the class that's coming up here starting next week?
Absolutely. We actually have 3 classes that are going to have open door on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday sessions. This is where you can come, you don't have to pay, and just be there with us for 2.5 hours. That's the duration of the class on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday is an hour and a half, and just see what we do and see, whether this education is for you. All of our education is based and deeply rooted into the Golden Gate University program that Hank and Bruce has created back in the early 90s for Wyckoff methodology. I feel very proud how we, took that material, extended it, made it more practical, and just incorporated a lot of new stuff, because the method is always evolving. It's not static. It's kind of like a living being that was originated by Wyckoff himself. So just jump into the classes. The first one on Monday is Wyckoff Trading Course Part 1, and it's all about accumulating the correct knowledge. So a lot of people come to us, and Bruce, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of people like this, and they're saying, "Okay, I've read this book, I've done this, I've been mentored, and so on and so forth." And when they take our course, they just basically, their quick comment is that, I'm so happy that I took it, because it systematized my knowledge and deepened it to a completely different level. Then after that, on Tuesday, we have WTC2 class, which we call the practicum. And the whole idea behind the practicum is skill building. I always tell my students, I kind of coined this phrase, knowledge is not a skill. A lot of people, what I see, are trying to know a lot. You don't have to know a lot to make money. And making money in the market, that's your only goal, or that should be your only goal. So what we do in the practicum class is we take the knowledge from WTC1 class and we start applying it on the market, and we just drill and practice and practice and practice each session. So 15 sessions, we just do exercises, and we go deeply into the visual recognition, into the understanding of the concepts, into the nuances and variations of each and one of them. And then on Wednesday, this is probably one of my favorite classes throughout the week, when Bruce and I get together for the market update. And for an hour and a half, we go through the markets, we go through the sectors, through the groups, into the stocks, into different assets. And it's just a very lively discussion that students enjoy so much. And we've been doing this for a while. We've actually, Bruce, I believe this is the 5th or the 6th year that we've been doing this. So wow. I think that we're pretty good with that.
Wow.
And then I want to mention two more things. So Wyckoff Tape Reading Lab, and I'm just looking at this live education tab here. So Wyckoff Tape Reading Lab is something that was created last year or even this year. And I conduct that class with William Reardon, who has become, a dear friend. And he is just an amazing chart reader and tape reader. And I would definitely recommend anybody who wants to become extremely technical in how to read the chart to attend those sessions. Check out, free offerings. And then also want to mention the Wyckoff Crypto Discord that we have, that Alessio is an leader on this product. And he's just a rising star, such a bright light of knowledge and skill that comes out of him each time that he speaks or he shows his material. So definitely check out his work as well.
Wyckoff Method is really a skill building process, and when we approach this at the graduate level, we work very, very hard on skill building into mastery, and really built Wyckoff into the emotional DNA of our students and their trading and investing. And so, like you said, this is a vastly different thing from just reading about it, is to live the experience of acting correctly in different market environments as you're developing your skills to a mastery level. And so this is something that's always been really important to our whole program at the graduate level. And clearly, Roman, you've taken this to the next level. And this is important because it accelerates mastery. And I can't emphasize that enough, is that anything that you can do to accelerate the mastery in your conduct and trading in the markets is incredibly valuable, incredibly valuable. So I'll leave it at that unless you have any thoughts about that, and we'll move on to market discussion.
Let's do it.
All right. Every Wednesday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific time, Roman and I get together and we have a Wyckoff market discussion with our Wyckoff community. And it is really the highlight of my week. I really love this exchange interaction. We have a lot of student submissions of case studies, chart work, et cetera, which is just fantastic, really fun. Anyway, so this is where we start our Wyckoff market discussion, is on a screen where we look at the sort of the 8 important dominant indexes or markets. And so here we are looking, let's just go right down the list and let's look at the S&P 500. Now, Roman, what I'm seeing here is a market that literally since last fall, a year now, has been in this really epic upward stride inside of a trend channel that's been going on persistently. And it's been just an exceptional period to be a trend following trader or investor. And so tell me what you see here, Roman.
Well, first of all, whenever we start our analysis, the first question that we ask ourselves, what is the trend? So the long-term trend, the secular trend is up. The intermediate trend from COVID low is still up. And then the short-term trend, which is the last part of the trend or the last swing on the daily chart, is up. So this is very important just to establish the background. Then I would say, Bruce, whenever you read the chart and you see the uptrend or, just the trend in general, you want to look at the character of the trend. So as you mentioned, since fall, we're having higher highs, higher lows. So there is a sustainability of the uptrend. And secondly, we want to note where we are finding the support. What's the character of that when supply is occurring, how the recovery is happening in those type of places. And also we want to note where the overbought condition is. So where they stop buying and where the selling might come. And so far, the uptrend is still up, and it's going to be up until it's not. And this type of, more simplistic messages, I think, is very important when you understand the complexity of how the price moves. I think, when we get together, those are one of the most important messages that you could deliver to students.
I see on this chart 3 reaccumulation type structures. I see one in September through November last year. I see one in February into March. And then I also see one in May into June. And those were all really important because they basically, reaccumulations in my mind are really dynamic opportunities to be able to gauge the ability of the market to be able to continue its upward trend subsequently or in the future. And in each of these cases, you had really just excellent upward strides that continued after that. You made a point last time that I thought was so interesting, where you talked about how you saw a reaccumulation type structure in the upward stride of the S&P going back to May. And I was just wondering if you could just take a minute and show us what you were thinking.
Yeah, I was about to go there. That was a very interesting idea, which kind of came up, during the class, which regularly happens with Bruce and myself, and we kind of seeing this upward stride, up tilted structure, and we see that there are quite a few reactions here. So there is an idea that the whole reaccumulation actually is all of that. And the support for this idea comes from the idea of the rotation, where when we go to industry groups or ETFs, and we've done that last Wednesday, we see something like this. We see that a lot of the groups were having some kind of change of behavior, we're having some selling, some profit taking, and that selling was exhausted and was absorbed. And finally, we're in the period where we're getting out of those bases. And those bases, as we went through them last Wednesday with Bruce, they look extremely bullish. The selling is contained, at least for the time being, and the demand is present. So the whole idea here is that this whole thing is the rotational reaccumulation, suggesting that the causality is not just this, but actually could be much, much larger. And then the second thought here, when we looked at the relative strength of those groups, also was very interesting, because on the relative strength charts, you kind of could see the same thing. The relative strength goes into underperformance for some time, then some kind of basing process. And now a lot of the groups and a lot of the stocks are starting to show the signs of outperformance, hinting that a potential leadership in the future is possible.
So rotation can happen stealthily underneath the surface, especially sector by sector, where you can have the much larger reaccumulation taking place in a group that has become really forgotten by the trading class. And then all of a sudden, it just completes a beautiful reaccumulation type structure and just starts to go. And this is going to be confirmed by relative strength also. And I have to say that we really focus and pay attention to this in Wyckoff market discussion, week to week to week. So this is a really we think an important concept in trading the markets. So let's look at the NASDAQ 100. That's been really important here in the summer and fall. And what's so interesting about the NASDAQ 100 is that there's in contrast to the S&P 500, look at this large reaccumulation structure that goes from February to May, June. And that's a really big structure. And one of the things we focus on is the idea of cause building a cause for another subsequent move. And we could see that cause being built in the NASDAQ 100 stocks. And it's really a beautiful structure, which is kind of a rotation, thinking of the NASDAQ 100 as kind of a sector of mega caps, in contrast to what the S&P has done. And all of a sudden, the NASDAQ 100 comes back into favor and starts to trend persistently again. Ramon, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, the rotation that started to happen in February, back in February, and especially into March, was really devastating, especially to stocks like ARK stocks, momentum stocks. And it took some time for that selling to be observed. So therefore, causality was created out of that selling. And then out of that selling and then pickup of the stocks, and we could see in the volume signature how the volume is expanding here, meaning that the effort to push the price down is expanding, but yet higher low creates, the downward result that is not conducive to the continuation of the downtrend. And here we are reversing, and this was such a great moment to identify not only the reversal and the conclusion of the causality, reaccumulation causality, but also signs of emerging leadership. And we've commented on this in our WMD sessions. And look how the price is just getting out of the trading range and extending its gains quite significantly on the sign of strength rally. That extension above the resistance where the price progressively commits to the upside from day to day, bar by bar, suggests that buying is consistent. Selling that comes is quickly being observed. And that was suggestive of the longer term upward trajectory and also the leadership. And then subsequent smaller trading range in this area right here suggests that this is a reaccumulation and we are continuing to the upside.
The cause that's been built here in the summer and then back to February actually, and then also the new reaccumulation do suggest that this upward trend still has much further to go. And so we will be doing point and figure charts of these structures in WMD and more next week and beyond. So that's a really interesting structure. Okay, moving on in the time that we have left. Let's have a look at, why don't you pick one, Roman?
Okay, well, Russell is very interesting, maybe really quickly just to mention this, just because Russell has been under the pressure of the Delta variant economy, where small businesses are obviously, open, but then, there are some other news that are coming in. So it's really hard for the small businesses right now, and it's being reflected in a much larger structure where NASDAQ has been out of the structure. Russell is still in the structure, but the latest mini structure or substructure in this larger structure is definitely constructive. We see how there was some sell-in, but yet look how we are still respecting this support level. And then the way how we are traveling now to the upside with the expansion of the upspread, and especially today's day where we're committing above the intermediate short-term resistance, that is looking extremely bullish, suggestive that not only we're going to hit the resistance, we're going to overcome it this time, and that we are in the potential sign of strength in phase D.
Fantastic. That's a huge cause right there. So this could be a really interesting juncture for the Russell. No doubt about it. Why don't we take a minute and talk about crypto? I know that you and Alessio do a lot of work in the crypto area.
Well, Bitcoin is kind of has become a little bit of the, I would say, a friendly nemesis, where I decided that I'm going to concentrate on this market and just, regularly, almost on a daily basis, provide some kind of research and thought on what is going on. So the key here was,
is this like therapy? Is this like trading therapy?
That's probably the therapy after I look at the chart.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to throw out here a very kind of like unusual idea, and we discussed this with Bruce in the last WMD class. So everybody's looking at this rally and this reaction, and I think we've talked about how this was a reaccumulation, and if you want to look at that research and analysis, just go to our Twitter and you can find the sequential thought about how this accumulation has unfolded. And by the way, just a short-term picture is still suggestive that not only we're going to come back to 64, but we're also going to overcome it, and probably, I'd say that into the end of the year, first quarter, we're going to see the prices trying to reach 100,000. But the thought that I have here, Bruce, and this is something that we've discussed, is what if this is the whole causality for this secular move? And we've just experienced a major sign of strength, and we're experiencing right now a major backing up action. In this type of the scenario, the way how, let's say, Bruce would be taking the counts would be just astronomically huge. And that would be suggestive not only that the prices in the longer term future are going to go, let's say, above 100,000, but actually they might go significantly higher than that.
Well, what's so fascinating here? Well, first of all, that little reaccumulation that you identified that we just went through, yes, right there, that point figure count reaches up into the 80,000+ zone. And so that's very interesting, and we'll keep an eye on that and update that as time goes on. But then the other part about it is that there's just such a huge accumulation type structure. The other thing with Bitcoin that's so interesting is that you have point figure counts that develop so darn quickly. I mean, it's just the volatility, point figure is a function of volatility. And so you can have really big structures built in short periods of time, which is, I think, one of the unique features of crypto, and in this case, Bitcoin, which makes the point figure analysis so interesting.
And if we zoom in a little bit, there are quite a lot of thoughts from just traders as to whether we should come back into the trading range. Bruce, we might come back into the trading range short term. We might have some kind of move that goes back into the support. But so far, all of the reactions that we see have two characteristics. First of all, there is non-aggressive supply that comes in, so the profit taking is somewhat limited. And secondly, every time there is some kind of profit taking, there is almost immediate recovery. So I don't see anything damaging long-term or even short-term for Bitcoin.
Fascinating. Now, let me, we have less than a minute left. So let me just ask you this question very briefly. And that is that in your experience with analyzing Bitcoin, and remember, we're not making any recommendations here. This is all for educational purposes. And so we just want to be able to share the principles of Wyckoff with you all so that you can apply it in the markets that you work in and use good risk management. But let me ask you, Roman, how does Bitcoin trade compared to other markets? Is there a distinction?
Well, there is definitely a lot of speed, velocity, overextensions. There are quite a lot of shakeout type of actions. The reactions are quite significant, sometimes between 30 to 50%. So it's still somewhat immature market that reflects that the institutional presence is still limited to a certain degree, and that's what's driving those overextensions and driving the velocity.
Roman, thank you so much for being here. Have a great fall teaching cycle, and we have to have you back again very soon.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you, Bruce, and thank you all.
Take care, everybody. So long for now.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.